Hello, my name's AJ Pickett, and I'm a mutant. To the outside world, this is what I mostly look like when I'm walking down to the supermarket to grab my groceries. I've got my Ray-Ban earbuds in, I've got my mask on, I wear sunglasses, and a nice big hat. They generally don't get to see me, and it's kind of amusing to me that I'm walking around some sort of metahuman mutant where everybody's wearing a mask, not the other way around. But for the purpose of the live stream, I'll take off my disguise. I think I might leave the sunglasses on because I haven't had a wink of sleep tonight. I was working on the the superatomic setting. Also, I was marveling at this. Look at this. This is from an object from history. When the settlers first came to New Zealand, this is an abalone shell. We call them paua. Look at the size of this thing. This was normal when people arrived in New Zealand. This is the normal size of the paua. Think of how big that abalone steak would be, right? That's how degraded the ocean is now. That you'll never see paua this big anymore. Not unless we stop harvesting them every single chance that we get. But the thing with seafood and generally sea life in general is things that this big will produce 300 times more offspring than something that's like the commercial size that we consider to be adult size now, which are like literally this big. So I hold on to this. In New Zealand, we call this a taonga. So this is a precious sacred artifact, never to be seen again. How's it going, everybody? Let me just pop out the chat here so I can look you in the eyes. I always like to situate it right underneath the camera so I can see you. There we go. We're going to pop-up notification. Moderation helps everyone feel safe. Yeah, really? How about just having a healthy community that you respond to? Tip to the YouTubers. Respond to the people in your chats. You won't have so many trolls. Most of them are just seeking your attention anyway. Hey, Koros. Hey, Shakescan. Hey, Lycan. Voices from the Dark. Theo. Jesse Parker. Emil. Soltron. Dragon Lord. Malige. How's it going? Comic Nut. Hey, how's it going? Gerald. Richard. Ben. Pallastar. How's it going? Hope that I'm staying healthy, my sage. Yes, in fact, I won't beat a dead horse and carry on and on and on about this because I know I've been talking about my health a lot lately because I've had to deal with the medical profession and they always get me really wound up. But what they suggested when they discovered that I have an iron count of 0 and a red blood cell count of 73 and that they were half the size that they should be, is that they wanted to give me a blood transfusion to begin with. And I said, that's a very bad idea. And then they sent me off to hospital and that didn't work because I had to wait for 6.5 hours before I even got a ECG or ECT. So I could have been having a heart attack. I would have died basically waiting there for 6.5 hours. So the hospital is officially broken. I don't want to go there for anything unless I'm like really, really actually having a heart attack. But I'm not going to. So I came home and then I went into the doctor's clinic and they insisted that I get an iron infusion. So I paid the money, got the 2 vials of 500 milligrams of iron each. They're going to put 1,000 milligrams of iron into my blood directly. And 3 nurses stuck me with all sorts of needles and they couldn't get a vein. So they couldn't even do it. They couldn't put the iron in me. God knows if they tried to get a line in me if I was having a heart attack or something, it wouldn't have worked. So, yeah, they couldn't get a line in. They'd stick the needles in, but I wouldn't bleed. And they'd take the needles out, and I still didn't bleed. And they were like, that's unusual. I'm like, you think? You think? It's kind of amusing to watch them, like, flail their hands around and just, like, wonder what the hell's going on. Because, yeah, I didn't conform to normal science, right? I told them to check, the documentation I brought in there, and that I needed a genetic test. But mostly I just needed to deal with my blood pressure. And the blood pressure was the cause of the problem. And the medication that I've got me on is working perfectly fine. So now all I have to do is eat a lot of meat Oh dear. So I have rump steaks and sirloin steaks and, that's Scotch fillets for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I can handle that. Thank you very much. AJ the Legend. Whoa. Hey, Wisenark. So, So yesterday I was out edging not edging, that's a bad word to use. I was trimming the edges of the concrete along my lawn. And the lawn that I mowed the other day, I mowed the entire lawn and in one go on a beating hot afternoon, yelled so loud with a victory Viking yell afterwards that a small child across the street started crying. I guess he's never heard a man actually yell in victory before. And I sent that to a few friends of mine, and half of them said, "Why are you so angry?" I'm like, "Can you not tell, that a man can yell when he's happy?" Not all male expressions of force and strength are violent or unhealthy. I was yelling because I was happy and I was victorious. Yeah, meat is the real food. So a lot of the iron supplements that you get essentially from vegetables and things like that are non-heme iron. Heme iron has got a different proteins. Well, it's picked up a lot better for some people than others. I'm one of those people that doesn't pick up a lot of iron from vegetables. I pick up iron from meat. So luckily that includes fish. So salmon and things like that. But the problem is that there's a fish farm down south that has closed down recently. And so the price of salmon has skyrocketed because all we've got is essentially the salmon from the Northern Hemisphere, which they're sending over here, which is absolutely ridiculous because we have beautiful coastal waters and all sorts of how do I put this? We have a forestry problem where the greenies have forced all the forestry workers to stop burning off all the slash, which is the branches and stuff. They cut off all the trunks of the trees and the tops of the trees, and they export the logs in mass numbers overseas. And this is what the government has been using as a carbon sink in New Zealand, you see. But the problem is that all those slashed timbers just sit on the ground, and then we had torrential rain for months and months at a time, huge amounts of rain, and it washed all that timber off these steep mountainsides along with all the silt and stuff underneath those pine trees because nothing really grows underneath them. And that went into the waterways and it smashed all the bridges and took out all the roads and wiped out people's houses. All the orchards and all that sort of stuff did billions and billions of dollars worth of damage, all because the greenies didn't want anybody to burn bits of wood. Well, all they had to do was get that timber, round it all up, seed it with fungus, get the fungus to break it all down, create bioenergy in the process in the form of heat and other gases and things that would be used for vehicles and things. And then the byproduct of fungal mass could be fed to the fish farms. It's not high in mercury because it's not meat products and stuff, but the fish can eat it perfectly fine. And then you would have delicious fish galore for everybody. But does anybody put two and two together and get these two industries to work together? No, because they're stupid. That's why I'm leaving New Zealand and going over to Quebec to go and fix your situation, because there's nothing I can do about Mother Nature wiping out this country here. It's a bit too late for that now. But enough of that doom and gloom. The bottom line is I'm perfectly healthy and I'm feeling absolutely fantastic, and I can guarantee if they do actually get a line in me next time I go to the doctors, which is actually tomorrow, they're going to see a iron count which is pretty much normal and a blood count which is just shooting up skyrocketingly high. Something they said could not possibly happen. Well, I'm going to be happy to prove them wrong and say that I'm a mutant and I'm proud and they can just deal with it, and I'm not going to solve their mysteries for them. I'm not some test case. This is not Grey's Anatomy. I actually gave them the answer in documentation when I first went in there. They didn't even read it. So, to the medical profession. Yeah, the problem is there's too much embedded management and stuff, and there's just not enough oversight. Look, the government is finally sort of clued into the fact here that they need to get rid of all the embedded civil servants who do nothing. See, all the government does is they're going to say, oh, well, that's a bit of a tricky problem. We're going to give it to a select committee, and they're going to sit on it for 2 years, and then we're going to ignore their advice. And this is the cycle that's just been going on and on and on. And now they're starting to target these civil servants by saying, you guys are not politically impartial. And so they start to wag their fingers at them and say, well, we're going to have to fire you for your tweets and things like that. And the civil servants are like, what? Tweets? Yeah. Welcome to the real world, kids. And made a pact with orcas. Yeah, I can't die, I guess. You have family living in Quebec? I'm going to Montreal, so it's not really real Quebec. It's like the nice bit of Quebec, I suppose. I get a lot of people who are in Quebec or in Canada who are telling me all these horror stories and stuff, and there's a lot of anti-French sentiment in America, which I find kind of distasteful. I mean, they didn't drop nuclear bombs on islands next door to you. They didn't come over to your country and bomb a Greenpeace vessel and kill somebody. No. Yeah, France. We're not forgetting that, by the way. But Quebec is not France. They don't even speak like French. Thankfully, that would be actually too difficult to learn. But I'll probably learn a little bit of French. All the love for orcas. Thanks, Ben C. Super chat. Yeah, thank you very much for those super chats. And also, thank you, patrons. You really saved my bacon last month. You really stepped up and saved my bacon last month. Thank you very, very much. There's been a lot of cycling of patrons coming in and a lot of patrons leaving because they realized that I was very serious about not doing D&D content anymore. At least for the next year. And also all of the commenters and things like that who are asking me for specific D&D stuff in my videos, even on the extraterrestrials, AJ's extraterrestrial guides, they're asking me for like monsters from D&D, and I'm like, no, no, not even being polite about it anymore. So yeah, every little bit of, hey, thank you, Demon Inquisition. Glad you've been feeling well, AJ. I almost had kind of a relief that the health industry is pretty screwed in more places than one. Regardless, glad to catch a stream and good to see you again. Yeah, so I'm going over to Canada, which has probably also got a really naffed health system. But you can't blame doctors for leaving when they've been completely stressed out by all of the bullshit from COVID-19. And lack of support just everywhere, and massive overabundance of bureaucracy, which is mostly English immigrants who come over here and just embed themselves into any health profession and then put safety barriers and OSH stuff everywhere. It's like they have an occupation to be like terrified of everything. That's all they do. Plus they come over here, they got no exposure to New Zealand culture, and unfortunately they're usually kind of racist. So we've got a health care system which is dealing mostly with Polynesian people who are dealing with racist people in the highest order, and they do nothing. They just basically put barriers to everything. And then we've got a pharmaceutical industry which has got perfectly viable solutions for a lot of health problems these days, but unfortunately, because most of the medications are already invented and quite cheap, they can't use them because they need to make money. So they spend millions of dollars going over to Africa and testing vaccines and stuff out on people. And then they charge everybody like wounded bulls. And I think it's about time that everybody just sort of stood up and went, nope. So there's a rising sentiment, I think, of people who are just pissed off. And it's not the radicals on either side that are really pissed off now. It's the creamy center. It's the reasonable people who are standing up and saying, hang on a minute. Didn't that virus actually come from a laboratory in Wuhan? Yeah, it did. So, this is me on no hours of sleep. Unfiltered, you could say. But I'm not afraid to say it. I live in New Zealand. What do I care? I'm free and mobile. I'm self-employed. I don't have to live here. I don't have to live anywhere. I can go and live in a boat somewhere. As long as I got a satellite connection, I can carry on working. And probably give a better chance of getting free fish out in the ocean. So, yeah. All good. Yeah, Maine's also pretty good. There seems to be a strip of like liberty and around the Great Lakes there, and Quebec is not that far from Maine. Hey, Jan News. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you're smart enough to see the solutions and you're not in charge, then should you be in charge? Should you be obligated to be in charge? Are smart people obligated to help everybody else? Is that the deal? Well, here's the other deal. A lot of the smartest people in the world are the ones with the most mental anguish and problems in the world. They're usually quite neurodivergent. So if we don't start supporting, I mean seriously fucking supporting the people who are neurodivergent, then like the psychiatric profession is probably just going to medicate the hell out of them. Because they're a bit worried, about the normies are a bit worried about them. But, I mean, look at the smartest people in history. Also the very troubled people in history. Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein had all sorts of problems with domestic abuse and all sorts of other stuff. I can guarantee you. Like, look at Newton, for instance. Not a normal person. Look at Tesla. Definitely not a normal person. Do I have my share of problems? You bet I do. Am I a smart person? Oh, yes. Am I obligated to help everybody? No. I mean, I try and get basic medical care. Can't get it. So for D&D, I mean, I've got, 340 odd D&D videos? I've done D&D. Now it's time to take the writing skills that I've built up over the 9 years that I've been doing YouTube and actually do some creative writing. So those AJ's Guide to Extraterrestrials and AJ's Monster Guides, which are going to be mostly mythology, yokai, weird monsters from actual cultures around the world, and, pay them the due respect that D&D never did. You'll actually learn the reason why, Minotaurs do this and how many Gorgons there are and what a Gorgon is as opposed to a Medusa and all that sort of stuff. So the actual reason behind these monsters. I'm a researcher, but I'm also a writer. And now I'm actually writing my own stuff. And hopefully it blows a few of your minds. Greatness is unnatural. There's a lot more smart people who just keep to themselves because it's too difficult to deal with society, which is built more and more for supporting thick people. Stupid, ignorant people are compensated way too much in society. I say take away the safety rails a little bit. Maybe. I mean, give them the support they need, surely. But, stop tolerating bullshit artists and narcissists and egotists and, these psychopaths that run corporations and things like that. Not good. Greatness is the biological method to avoid being eaten. I agree, Sky. Nice to see you, by the way. Yeah. So, I mean, either way, it's not good if you have high blood pressure for most of your life. It's going to put a strain on your system. So I have a limited time period in order to get stuff done. I have no illusions that I'm going to live to 80 years old. I'm not. I'll be lucky if I hit 65. If I do, win-win. And hopefully I'll have a massive body of work, probably 3 or 4 books to my name that will be getting some attention, I assure you. So I'm not too worried about the numbers on the channel at the moment, like videos getting 2,000 views and stuff. They just haven't hit the right audience yet. But when they do, oh boy, are they going to make some waves. So I'm sticking it out. And that's why I'm so thankful for the people who have stuck out with me and going through this transition into different type of content and stuff, particularly the patrons who are sticking by me, because that patron support is steady, not opposed. Well, the YouTube is not steady. A lot of content creators will be telling you that their revenue has been very, very low lately, and it's been inexplicably low. And advertisers are putting the thumb screws on YouTube. I've mentioned this before. It's individual sponsorship to individual video sponsorship. See, if they can buy targeted sponsorship and basically rip off the people who are taking it. Like, for instance, if they were buying a Google ad slot on one of my videos, it would be something like $2,000 just for one little snippet of a skippable ad. But they're willing to pay. They're wanting to pay like $250 for a 30-second dedicated shout out on my channel. I don't think so. And not only that, but these guys are so arrogant that they spam my channel and actually sign me up for shit that I don't want to see. I got signed up for US senator representatives newsletters and all sorts of stuff. Spiteful scumbags, some of these guys. So, yeah, I don't need their sponsorship. Thank you very much. That's why I appreciate you patrons so very much. And that's why I'm so happy that I can now produce content exclusively for you. You should write a post and hey, thanks, Tony. It's been a bit. Yeah, it has. Hope all is well. I know you were mentioning Palladium vids. Have you done anything? Yeah, I've got a lot of Palladium. But this is all of the, by the way, as I've mentioned before, Palladium was the first game that I started actually dungeon mastering. So Palladium has always been my first love. My videos about Dungeons & Dragons was me learning Dungeons & Dragons lore, but Palladium, it's already hardwired in here. I basically just have to catch up on the latest world books and stuff for Rifts. But as for Beyond the Supernatural, Ninjas and Super Spies, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, That's my lifeblood. I know Heroes Unlimited like the back of my hand. This is my signed 30-year anniversary revised 2nd edition one. I don't actually think it's that good because it, they got rid of a lot of the equipment section, which was a real bummer, although most of it is like from the 1980s. That was kind of the appeal of it too, particularly the Beyond the Supernatural book, although the second Beyond the Supernatural book has been updated, and I think they've actually done a very good job of the writing in there, clarifying a lot of stuff. And talking not just about the rules mechanics, but the theory behind it and things. And that video that I did on the Palladium magic system should clue you in onto how the creators of the game really wanted the game to be played. It's a tool set of rules. You don't have to know all of them. You just need to know the core rule set. And then if there's a specific situation where you need to find a rule, it's much like AD&D. You can go find it, but quite often you don't need to know how much clay somebody can move per round if they've got a strength of 16 or something like that. You don't need to worry about that sort of stuff. Sometimes it becomes specifically important for a trap or something like that when somebody's life is on the line, but you don't need to know that sort of minutiae for a day-to-day thing. The combat is very, very fluid in the game. You quite often play it without miniatures and stuff, and it works just fine. Often, when you're dealing with long-ranged sniper weapons and things like that, modern firearms and things, the ranges are just ridiculous for miniatures anyway, so it's a moot point. It's not a war game. It's a role-playing game, particularly with superheroes. They can run at Mach 1, for instance. Right, so the requests that I've had are mostly Rifts based at the moment because I've been covering Rift stuff mainly, the Zytikix aliens, and the magic system was mostly focused on post-apocalyptic Rift Earths. The precursor of Rifts, for instance, is Beyond the Supernatural. So if you wanted to do a timeline and run right through from the present day into Rift Earth, it would be start with Beyond the Supernatural first edition with maybe some ninjas and super spies and Mystic China in there to give you that old school 1980s vibe. So Stranger Things or Ghostbusters, perfect for that. Or X-Files, perfect for that. Then if you want to take it into the modern day with social media and things like that, Beyond the Supernatural 2, and then get into the Chaos Earth and that sort of stuff if you want to go through the whole apocalypse, or you can just skip ahead and say, okay, these are the survivors, or they got sucked into a time warp in something and spat out in Rift's Earth in 300 years in the future. And that's Rifts for you. But you can modify Rifts as well. You don't have to use the Mega Damage Sys. You could use the same rule set from Heroes Unlimited. It works perfectly fine. In fact, you can port over any character from any of the other games. You can have a Palladium Fantasy Wolfen character from the Wolfen Empire. Oh yeah, they've got playable dog folk. Not only that, it's an entire empire of dog folk. Plus you've got the Cankerin and the Coils as well. So you've got two different breeds. In Rift Earth, for instance, they've mutated dogs to human sapience, and they run around in packs hunting down supernatural creatures in the burbs of Chi-Town, sorry. I've been viciously corrected on my pronunciation of Chicago, Chi-Town. And they are ruled over by, directed and assisted by psi stalkers who are psychically active humans who have mutated due to the extreme magic of the Rift Earth. But they're still human, so they're okay in the Coalition States. So the first video that I had requested was on the Coalition States, and I have to do a bit of research there to catch up on everything because there's been a few source books, the whole war with Laszlo and Tolkien, that stuff. Then it's a video on the psionics system in the Palladium Megaverse. And then there's the mutant animals and the BioE system. I'm really looking forward to that because Eric Wujcik, the guy who wrote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in like 5 weeks from a basic manuscript. And this is based on Eastman and Laird's original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics and graphic novels before the syndicated cartoon and all the pizza and all that bullshit. They actually killed people. And there's a grimness to it. Also, Eric Wujcik really just pulled out every stop and just poured his creativity into that setting. So transdimensional TMNT has awesome dealing with time travel and stuff like that. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Guide to the Galaxy or Guide to the Universe, fantastic. It's got the Triceratops alien, got the story of the Utroms and the transmat technology that caused their mutation in the first place. all sorts of background information on different aliens and stuff like that throughout the galaxy. Then, of course, you've got the Aliens Guide, which is different from the Three Galaxies Guide for Rifts. Tons and tons of source material there. And it has aged very well. They're still producing books for Palladium, and there's still a very active base of people, and there's also tons of old school gamers who are just begging for games of Rifts and looking for new players. So yeah, like just look in the description, like the chat below this live stream, and you'll probably see people who are saying, I'm looking for a game in like Grand Rapids, or I'm looking for a game in, Illinois. So yeah, post down below. So Dog Boys and Side Stalkers, Palladium Fantasy and the Garden of the Gods, which is a supplement that I haven't read yet because it's relatively recent. They only just put it out recently. Palladium Fantasy is basically their version of D&D, and it works really well. Free Quebec is, of course, close to my heart. These are all suggestions by viewers, by the way. These are not I just wrote them down in order as people asked me if they were going to see a video on it, and I was like, you have requested this. The New German Republic, and this is what it will probably include Triax, weapon manufacturing. Mystic Russia, which I haven't read. I'm looking forward to that one. Heroes Unlimited, then, finally. And Heroes Unlimited is close to my heart. So that's why I've also been working on Super Atomic. And this is based on... I've settled on West End Games' second edition of the D6 system. Well, it's kind of like the third incarnation of it. What happened was West End Games went under. It wasn't even their fault. They just really bad situation. And before they went, they had an update for the D6 based West End Games Star Wars Saga thingy edition, or whatever it's called. It was one of the best, and the system works really well. It uses a wild D6 dice, so you got exploding dice rolls. It's a dice pool mechanic for everything. And I've worked out ways that you can limit the dice pool bloat and do a point cost buy. So it's something that you get advantages and disadvantages to buy extra dice and things. And you have a pool of dice that you assign your character for their skills, their attributes, and their special abilities. And the special abilities, of course, will be superpowers. And I have something like 500 or 600 superpowers that I'm going to convert over to the D6 system, drawn from all sorts of different sources like Marvel, Palladium, all sorts of different games. I'm going to use a lot of tried and true methods and the structure of games. Like Palladium has got a really good structure and a really good way of generating characters, and Heroes Unlimited is just like a really well written book for finding things. It's stood the test of time. I played this game for 35 years or so, and it's still as good today as it was the day that I picked it up, honestly. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and of course making the AJ's Guide to Extraterrestrials videos. Those are going well, and I've pretty much abandoned the use of ChatGPT. There's other ones that you can use as well. Copy AI is a new one that the advantage it has over, so if you go to just type in copy.ai.com or whatever, it'll take you there. The difference between Copy AI and ChatGPT is ChatGPT's information stops in 2020. It doesn't trawl the internet for current information. Copy AI does. So it can actually look up all of my published scripts on YouTube and actually research and base its writing on my own writing, which is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to training and having a conversation with Copy AI and seeing what it can do. But I'm moving away from using ChatGPT, apart from basic stuff like random roll tables and things like that to help me with my creativity. But the actual writing of my video scripts, I've listened to everybody's feedback, and they want to hear my voice and my writing solely. So I'm happy to do that. That's fine. Oh, you're playing in a weekly Rifts game? You lucky bastard, Theo. I'd love to. Pseudo Monster History Channel, yeah. SCP style monster creation vids. Yeah, sure, certainly. I'd like to cover a lot of cryptids as well. That'll be quite interesting. But of course, don't forget, I'm system agnostic now. I'm not covering any particular thing. I'm talking about role-playing games and covering their lore and things like that, but I'm not going to go into specific monsters and things like that for those, because I've done that. Let me move on, I've got a lot more stuff to show you now. Yeah, the Wolfen are really cool. The Wolfen Empire in Palladium Fantasy are kind of a Roman-esque Byzantine civilization, so they're not to be messed with, that's for sure. They control a large area. And even Traveller has got the Varga, for instance, who are a dog species. But D&D? Nothing. Where are the dog folk in Dungeons and Dragons? Where are they? Why are they so obsessed with not having dog people in D&D? Isn't that weird? Weird. I guess it's because the people that basically create D&D are a bunch of, I don't know, non-dog lovers. Makes sense when you think about it. Anyway, I have noticed that a lot of content creators have been invited over to go and visit the offices of Wizards of the Coast and have a little conference thing. They've also got an online conference which is going on as well. I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't invited any of us foreign D&D creators. So me, Mr. Rex, I think, various others, just nothing, nada. We're not even on the radar. And fair enough, I don't want anything to do with them, and I've made that perfectly clear on all of my videos and things. And I'm not afraid to tell you that I didn't get any writing credit for Dark Alliance, even though I invented a lot of the shit that they used in that game, and a lot of the like giant tablets and the text and the goblin language and all the Uthgard and Reged Barbarian research that I did for them, all the writing on the lore for the tablets that were written by a giant that was traveling around. All that stuff, all that writing that I did for them, did I get any credit for that? No. They Took hired me on as a consultant, and then D&D, Wizards of the Coast came along and bought out Took, and then released the game way too early. They didn't invest any budget into it. That's why there's no model for Cragcats or Guinevere, for instance, because they couldn't afford to get the programming template for that, because the people who developed that game weren't programmers. They just basically patchworked everything together, and yeah, it's messed up how they made that game. And I did my best, and there's some good lore in there, and they did some stuff to improve the game, but by that stage, the multiplayer was shot to hell because nobody was playing the game, so you can't get any multiplayer groups playing it, and the game only really works well multiplayer, so there's still people who are playing it and stuff, but obviously everybody's waiting for Baldur's Gate 3, and Baldur's Gate has been delayed. How long's it been now? Like 3 years? How long is this game going to be in development for? Honestly. Are they waiting for the D&D movie to screen? I don't know. Box office sales of the D&D movie, as predicted, are dismally bad, and Hasbro is going to be lying through its butthole and telling us all sorts of success stories. And, oh, it's wildly great. No, everybody's buying the merch. No, they're not. They're going to be hemorrhaging money. So the writing's on the wall for Hasbro, that's for sure. Did you miss anything, Robert? Nothing much. Mystara is the best setting, probably. Yep, I would say so. And also D&D's basic set and the Rules Cyclopedia is the only complete version of the game. Cat petting executives. Yeah, I mean, the only way they would pet a cat is if they were like Mr. Evil planning their things, and then they would hand it off to an assistant to do any actual love and care for the creature. Because they have no empathy. I have to ask you your mission from God. Yeah, that's true. It's dark, and I'm wearing sunglasses. I'm glad that you're a fan of Eberron. I'm not. I mean, Neverwinter Nights was a fantastic game. They could have kept supporting that game forever. And the ability to make your own levels and things like that, and actually customize and make your own campaigns, people are still using that game. Like, people are still playing Freelancer, for instance, because they had an expanded universe that was just huge. Open source the base game. Make the base game free and then sell add-ons. Don't charge people for a beta testing game because they'll leave and then there's no point for you to develop any further. Executives are always pushing to get things out as quickly as possible because they're worried about their bottom line, because their budgets and stuff like that and their jobs are on the line. Stop getting penny pushers in any position where they can take control of a creative process. I mean, look at D&D. Look at the crap they're churning out in Magic the Gathering and in the game supplements. If they're going to make their own IP stuff, then just use Magic the Gathering's IP. I mean, what happened? Why don't we have a Dominaria sourcebook? Why didn't they make Dominaria the home setting for 5th edition? Just, leave the realms alone. But hey, I don't care. I'm out. Yep, there's still active servers in Neverwinter Nights. How long has that game been around? A long time. October 6, 2020 was the release date for Baldur's Gate 3. My God. 3 years in development. There's something fishy there. Thanks, Tony. Do not know too much. Is it a Hasbro problem or Wizards? They're one and the same. I know Hasbro is Mama Bear, but curious about it being a failure on all fronts or selectively one or the other. So Wizards of the Coast is a nebulous thing, right? So the executive branch are basically mercenaries who get hired in by Hasbro to dictate everything to the creatives. The creatives are siloed off in bunkers, and they're lucky if they get to talk to each other and certainly talk to management. And there's been a bit of a shake-up at the moment. But let me just tell you what's going on at the moment in my world and a little company over in China at the moment who are dealing with a lawsuit from Wizards of the Coast right now. And I've very politely emailed the lawyers involved here saying that they should not pursue this because it's going to backfire on them badly. I haven't got a response, so here's my response to them very publicly. They are suing this little company they have got a trademark on their dice set and the word Mind Flayer and a Cthulhu-esque dice design. So it looks like a little skull with some tentacles and stuff on it. On the packaging and the copy on the packaging, which I designed and wrote, by the way. And don't forget, I was hired by Wizards of the Coast. I've received money for them as a consultant on one of their major video game releases. So I am an expert on all things Dungeons & Dragons lore. So when I have written that copy there and I said it's designed for the Call of Cthulhu and Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games, it says nothing about specifically Dungeons & Dragons. Mind Flayer was used as the words, not Illithids. Now, if you go to page 97 of the systems reference document for 5th edition, which they just put into the Creative Commons themselves, on page 97 is the words Mind Flayer. That means they've given over Mind Flayer to the Creative Commons already before they launched this spurious lawsuit. They are just trying to intimidate a tiny little company over in China, in Shenzhen, which has got a number of families who I know and get sent, we talk on a monthly basis where we catch up and stuff. These are the people who helped me with my Kickstarter. And I've been helping them with their dice designs and copy and stuff like that. I'm a game consultant and a product consultant. I help them with their design. I help them translate their English and their Chinese into English to help them sell products in America, because they have nobody in America who will deal with them or talk to them because they don't understand Chinese business practices. They like to talk to Kiwis because we're polite, diplomatic, and we actually deal with them as human beings, not the CCP, but actual people trying to earn a living for their children. So this is what they're dealing with. 3 different law firms that are being hired by Wizards of the Coast to harass them for no fucking reason other than to suppress their business. And that is what Hasbro does. And it's not Hasbro which is suing them, it's Wizards of the Coast who are suing them. Various lawyers on behalf of Wizards of the Coast. So, on the one hand, Wizards of the Coast is saying, oh, look, we've changed our spots, we're inviting the creative community. On the other hand, when they are over in China where they don't think you can see them, I see you, you pricks, where they don't think you can see them, they're doing exactly the same shit they've always done. A monopoly. They're trying to suppress anybody who sells any product that's anything like anything that they want to sell. And guess what is primary stage, center stage in the Baldur's Gate 3 game? Mind Flayers. Illithids. So just call them Illithids, Wizards of the Coast. Leave Mind Flayers back in the Creative Commons where you fucking put it. And stop harassing people over in China. Otherwise, I will organize Hail Hydra again and we will just hand you your ass again and again and again. You can't hide. You can't keep on doing this shit and think you can get away with it. Nuh-uh. I'm right there on your asses. And if you don't pay any attention to me sending you a polite email to cease and desist, then I will publicly shame you like I'm doing right now. By the way, everybody, share this, snip it, copy paste it, put it into Twitter, whatever you want. I've got facts. I've got emails. I've got all the documents that were sent to them from this. These people are desperate, and they came to me, not even a lawyer, asking me legal advice. Like, because get this, Chinese lawyers won't even touch the case because it's just Hasbro. They're scared of Hasbro. It's just like, they've got nothing. This is complete bullshit. But yeah, so this is what they do. Ni hao. So yeah, it is depressing that they think they can just intimidate people like that. And this is what they do. They just sue people. That's why they hang on to the IP. That's why they're not going to ever release Dungeons & Dragons. They're never going to sell Dungeons & Dragons. They're just going to hang on to it. Even if they drive it into the grave, they will still sue anybody for any small amount of money that they can, because that's what they do. Believe it or not, this is decaf. Yeah. Yeah, let's raise H.P. Lovecraft from the grave and say, hey, what do you think of these mind flayers? And they'll be like, that's pretty chthonic to me, man. Yeah. I mean, Gary Gygax got inspiration from the creatures from there's a cover. I mean, if you go and look at my video on the mind flayers, pretty much the most comprehensive and astute research on mind flayers outside of Bruce Cordell's cupboard. Yeah. Also, why don't I just go and get Bruce Cordell on the phone and have a chat with him about the inspiration for mind flayers and where they came from? Why don't I get in contact with Tim Kask and ask him who's actually got the copyright for that, and where was it actually part of Fiend Folio, for instance, with the Githyanki? Who owns the copyright for the Githyanki, Wizard of the Coast? Somebody over in the UK who got a first use contract? Yeah. In absence of any contracts that you could produce, Wizard of the Coast, then the legal case will be determined by expert testimony. Guess who the expert testimony that is working against you is? Me, you pricks. I'll be quite happy to front up to a court anywhere in the world and face you down and ask you to please deliver the documents which say that you have rights to use that, because you don't. Yeah, Wizard of the Coast probably wouldn't be around. I mean, Garfield, his first game that he wanted to produce was something like a robot laser tag thing. He's not a very good game developer. D&D, TSR was trying to produce these game dice, Dragon Dice. They sold a lot of the first ones because everyone was basically in the momentum of D&D, and they were very curious about it. Then they saw that it was actually shit, and they didn't buy any of their stuff afterwards. And because TSR just were allergic to doing any sort of product feedback whatsoever, because they paid no attention to anybody, and that's why they produced all the Birthright supplements. And Birthright was a campaign setting, which was basically a kingdom management game, and they produced Birthright, just tons and tons of products on Birthright, and they were good products, but just nobody was buying them. And so they were going, they had warehouses full of products, much like Wizard of the Coast has got warehouses full of products right now. How many containers of Strixhaven do you've got sitting in storage, Wizard of the Coast? Are you going to bury them into the ground somewhere like you did with the container loads of Dragon Dice that are hidden somewhere? And then they ran out of money and they couldn't produce any more products, so they had to sell the company, and they sold the company to Wizard of the Coast. And then Wizard of the Coast got bought out by Hasbro. And yeah, here we are. Stand with Guilliman. Oh, talking of 3D printing, I've finally got a Creality resin printer on the way. So I've got all these STL files, which I'm going to be showing you. Hexagon Hills is one of the Kickstarters that I backed, and I'm going to be painting up a fantastic diorama of like tiny weeny little terrain stuff. So actually hex crawl on a 3D tabletop. Be awesome. I'm also going to be shouting out a creator and demonstrating to you that for the price of one, not even all three, but one core rulebook of Dungeons & Dragons from Wizard of the Coast, you can get from Drive-Thru RPG not only a core game book, but also a complete campaign book, plus all the maps that come with that campaign book, plus all the 3D printable terrain from your printer for a print and paste technique with video support, all for less than, not even the same as, but quite a lot less than the cost of one D&D book. And you've got a complete game that will last you for years and years and years. So I'm very happy to shout this out because his inspiration was actually my invention, which was print and paste 3D modeling. So I was sick and tired of painting the 3D terrain that we're making, or the 2.5D terrain, which is inspired by DMScotty's method, and the modular tile set, which was invented by Gareth over in Australia. That's DMG. And I was following along and a fan of that stuff. And I said, man, I'm really sick and tired of painting cardboard because the cardboard always warps and stuff. And I don't have like an airbrush and things like that. And I don't want to like spend tons and tons and tons of money on paint. So why don't I just print out maps and then just cut the maps up and then elevate them with cardboard underneath and then stick it on that. From that came the foam core instead of cardboard, and that's where Jeremy from Blackmagic Craft took off, and his channel had all sorts of fantastic techniques for using that material. Unfortunately, that material is not something that is parallel imported into New Zealand because we only use that for picture framing. And the art industry always bloats the prices on stuff dramatically. It's like the fashion industry. It's absolutely disgusting how much they mark up prices on stuff. Those effete snobs. But I can probably get hold of a lot of foam core stuff and do that as well. But also I've got a 3D resin printer, which I'm going to be testing out anyway. So yeah. So my history in crafting is kind of auspicious as well. It goes right back to the beginning. And like Wood, for instance, I'm going to be doing a review of his Within the Ring of Fire RPG, which is a very immersive narrative. His writing is absolutely visceral, no holds barred, and really good. And he was probably, I think, the first ever person to run a game over a streamed, live streamed chat over the internet using, I think it was Google Hangouts or something like that. But he was the first person to do that. So this is all relatively recent. And I was the first person to do print and paste. So print it out on the printer and then use a glue stick and stick it to the cardboard, and there you go, terrain. Some of my earlier videos are still there. They've got woefully small views. Go back and look at them, and you'll see that I've got a very good method for making terrain just out of recycled materials and printer paper. Yeah, that you can make with your kids. All you need is a pair of scissors and some glue stick, and you're fine. Yeah, so the filament is good for building terrain and stuff. That's true. The resin is very, very fine, and the main advantage of resin over the long term is that it's much more robust. So it fixes in UV light, and you basically put it in isopropyl alcohol and then fix it with UV light, and then it becomes completely non-toxic once it's reacted with the UV light. You have to keep it well ventilated and take care not to get that stuff on your skin while it's still reactive, and then once it's reactive, it's perfectly fine. The advantages it has over the filaments is they react to moisture in the air, and that will actually degrade it over time. So it'll take a long time. But if you have one of those 3D printed objects and it's not like ABS plastic and stuff, which is also quite toxic, it's going to react to rainwater and moisture outside and swell and lose its structural integrity. So they're not really that well designed for long-term stuff. But they're perfectly fine for modeling, base frameworks and stuff. Like, for instance, you could 3D print something like this and then just you put green stuff and do the fine sculpt on the outside of it. So use it as a wireframe almost. That's a really good method for using that stuff if you're a sculptor. There's all sorts of ways and means to manipulate and use this stuff. But the resin is very, very high detail, and it's quite fast, and it's also completely silent. There's just a woo, 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 because there's only one axis, which is the plate going in and out. So essentially, if you've never seen a resin printer before, it's a build plate that sinks down into some liquid that reacts to UV light. Then you've got a build plate, which is an LCD screen underneath, and that just shines one micro thin layer at a time that fixes, and then it lifts and pulls it off, and then puts it back down again, and fixes the next one, pulls it off, and it just builds it up. And 3D prints the thing from the top bottom to the top upside down, and then you just take it off the support plate, take away the supports that you've built into it. They usually build them at a slight angle like that so that you don't get that suction from the plate sticking to it, which can really ruin a print. And there you go. I've got tons and tons of files. Like, people collect miniatures, I collect STL files. I don't know why. Yeah, BattleTech's really good for that. All of the games that use a lot of miniatures, all the wargaming miniatures and stuff like that, all the Warhammer 40k miniatures can all be 3D printed and stuff these days. And I say absolutely go for it. Any company that is still like charging you through the nose for that stuff, they deserve to be ripped off. Absolutely. Be reasonable. Sell STL files. That's all you need to do. But of course, it's not within the budget for everybody, but it is very much within budget now. Like that system, I bought it local from Auckland. It's been imported directly from Shenzhen in China. Creality is one of the companies which is of a similar quality to Anycubic, for instance. They're very, very similar. And they'll tell you all sorts of stuff about, the capacity and stuff like that. But a lot of it is just tech speak, bloated jargon bullshit. The capacity is very similar to a lot of these different ones. And Creality manufactures directly in Shenzhen and sends it over. That's basically the Silicon Valley where they do most of the manufacturing there, with a very big migrant population of people from all different provinces in China which go and work in Shenzhen. So it's a fun place for sure. So they sent it over to Auckland, and I bought it for less than $1,000 with 2 bottles of resin to start off with, and also a washing and curing machine that go along with it, for under $1,000, and it will do pretty much any terrain that I want it to do. Don't forget also, if you want to make a big object like a mask, like a Boba Fett mask or something like that, or Mandalorian mask, you can do it in sections and then basically just stick it together with epoxy. Works perfectly fine. You don't have to print the whole thing at once. And they can do obviously tall, thin objects very well. Yeah, Creality is amazing. I've used their filament printers. I've had 3 different filament printers. The first one I built from parts. The second one was assembled from parts. And the third one was a fully assembled one in a box that I now have given to my friend to use. Yeah, Chessettes Max and Creality. Dude, so I fully appreciate your use of the Chessex vinyl mats, but there is a better alternative. You don't even have to try and find the ones that I made with a Kickstarter. Essentially, all you need to do is go onto any sort of site that sells kids' creative silicone table mats, where you have like, it's either a dinner mat or a crafting mat, or it's even cooking sheets and things like that. Silicone is absolutely fantastic because it's non-porous, and you can use permanent markers or wet dry erase markers or even pen or pencil and things like that, and basically just wipe it down with a cloth. I would say avoid using any red permanent markers, because sometimes that can stain quite a bit because it's just very visible. It's not staining into the material per se. Any sort of creases and stuff like that you could possibly inflict on it can be straightened out using just boiling hot water. And the thing will last you a lifetime. It's chemically inert, so it's perfectly safe to go into a landfill if you have to. But basically, it's damn near indestructible. Don't cut it with a crafting knife, but you can use any sort of glue or paint or even hot glue guns and stuff like that, and it will just peel straight off there. The only thing that doesn't is super glue, cyanoacrylate. Don't use that on it. But other than that, I haven't found anything that damages it permanently. And I've tested those out a lot. I manufactured those through a Kickstarter, but yeah, absolutely. You don't even have to spend all that money on the good quality Crayola markers. They are pretty good, those Crayola ones, I've got to say. But you can just use an ordinary, vivid permanent marker, Sharpie, and use it just like a wet dry erase board. I swear to you. You're welcome. Use overhead projector sheets taped together. Right. I mean, Chessex were good, but they are still vinyl plastics. And we're trying to not get like plastic into the environment, folks. Those Chessex maps they won't last you forever, and they're not cheap. There's better alternatives. Spend a little bit more money on a big silicone sheet. You can even cut it to size. You can use it to cook pizzas in the oven. You can use it for cooking cookies. And you can throw it in the dishwasher. It's machine washable. They are fantastic, honestly. Yeah, they are fireproof up to, I think it's about 300 degrees, pretty much anything short of directly burning it with like a lighter or something. But they're oven safe, right? Maybe it's 500. I'm not sure. I know that they're chemically stable at 300 degrees for extended period of time. So we're talking years. So you can put it in an oven and just leave it there, and it will be perfectly fine at 200 degrees forever. Yep. You cooked cookies on yours? Yeah. I mean, I cooked pizza on mine as part of the promo for the mats that I sold via Kickstarter. Oh, you're most welcome. I'm glad people got those. I didn't make any money out of them. I learned a lot about Kickstarter. So when I do put out my book, more books later this year, 300 degrees Celsius, 500 Fahrenheit. Ah, there you go. Yeah, 300 Celsius. Sorry, I'm a Kiwi. I use that temperature scale. You've been using the Chessex for 15 years? Yeah, they're perfectly fine. I'm just saying, this one will last you a lifetime and you can hand it down to your kids. Depending on the type, yeah, and the thickness and things like that. Shop around. And a lot of the stuff that you can buy, it's very hard to get transparent silicone. It's usually quite cloudy or like translucent. But if you stick it right on a surface, you can read through it and stuff like that. The translucent ones, they were as close as I could get to as transparent as I could get, and maintaining the thickness of it so that it would last forever. Plus, also I manufactured some glow-in-the-dark sheets as well that really do glow in the dark. We're talking Simpson's control rod glow green. And I got some lovely shots of Bree playing on one night. She was fascinated because I was running the laser pointer across it, and the laser pointer was making a glowing line behind it. Looked very eerie. She loved it. You never know. Maybe I'll do another Kickstarter in the future. Who knows? I'm also working on a set of dice that I'd love to release with a product on maybe Drive-Thru RPG or something. These would be trade dice, or like if you have a shipwreck or if you have some cargo containers on a dock or a wharf or a warehouse, or you're a pirate and you're raiding a galleon or something like that, something to that effect. A set of dice based on the trade cargo items from the Forgotten Realms 3rd edition sourcebook or 2nd edition sourcebook, campaign book. And they've got all the trade routes and stuff like that across Faerun. And they had a big list of all the different trade goods. And I divided those up into 4 different D20s, or is it 3 different D20s for low value, medium value, and high value cargo items that you can just randomly roll. What's in it? Tobacco. What's in this one? Whale oil. What's in this one? Fine wine. Perfect. Some D20s that you can roll for that. And I've also developed these dice as well. Let's see. There's the 12 emotional cardinal states dice to determine what the emotional state of the NPC that you're meeting is when you first meet them. They could be flirty. You've got the random treasure type. So potions, scrolls, armor, money, art objects, armor, that sort of stuff. Then you've got this is the classic D&D basic map symbols for dungeons. So we've got trapdoors, falling fireplaces, altars, dais, statue, stairwell, that sort of stuff. Then you've got the classic hex terrain, and it's even in a hex because it's a 12-sided dice. This is all the terrain types, hex dice. You can get these through Amazon or go to D&D, go to Bestcon, I think sells these. So I've worked with Bestcon Dice Company, which is a massive dice company over in China. They have to export dice as table ornaments because otherwise they're seized and burned at the border by the CCP as gambling accessories. This is a D8 that just has the cardinal directions of the compass on it. Very handy for randomly determining where a grenade lands in rifts, for instance. That's the sort of stuff. This one here is another, this is room types, corridor types, and things if you're randomly rolling to generate your own dungeon, which is really handy, particularly if you're playing a solo game like Tunnels and Trolls and stuff like that. So there you go. I do that stuff too. 12-sider is a pentagon. Sorry, I stand corrected. It's still a hex though, right? For a hex map? Yeah, that's a hex, isn't it? That's a hex. Anyway, I think that's about enough from me today. If anybody's got any other questions or stuff, did I miss any super chats? Because I've been ranting at the screen for so long. I'm just going to scroll back up. Nope, I didn't. By the way, the YouTube Partner Program has told me that I must do more live streams. So I'm going to be doing more live streams on a regular basis for you folk. Each face is a pentagon. Ah, I see. ACKS. Axe? Any experience with it? Not sure what you mean, Matt. This seems like a pretty good time to do a live stream. I mean, there's a lot of regulars in here. So I guess I could keep this up as a regular live stream time. So same time next week? Aren't I in the game soon? No, the game was yesterday, in fact. That was Esper's game. He's got a live... I should plug a few things. Go and check out James Desborough, James Grimm Desborough. He has a fantastic body of literature and also some commentary on the gaming industry and diversity hires and all that sort of stuff. He has a lot of political commentary, but also a huge selection of really good RPGs that he's self-published for years now. And he needs all the support that he can get because he's an independent publisher. Also, James Edward Ragi III, publisher of the Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Go and check out his stuff. Also, damn it, dude. Damn it. Oh, you're on the tip of my tongue. Hang on a second. I'm just going to check something. Oh, this is the no sleep. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? By the way, Dungeons and Discords I watch quite often. I really like that stuff. Skelegrim, go and check him out. Shadowversity, if you're into that sort of thing. Your Pocket GM, who does a lot of advice on like all the run-throughs of starter dungeons and things like that. Really nice cadence and well like covered stuff. He's over in Australia, and I'd love for him to quit his crummy jobs and start doing YouTube full time. And Man Shorts, I watch quite often. Of course, Dungeon Dad. He's now got 2 videos uploaded. Oh, he's got a couple of videos in the works, but he's headed off to go to the Wizards of the Coast offices. Also, Ted from Nerd Emergence, I think, is going over there as well. Tabletop Minions, I watch his stuff. The Hype Goblin, I watch her stuff as well. And damn it, why is he not popping up on my feed? He's like always there. Esper the Bard, of course. There he is. Total Party Skills. Go and check out Total Party Skills. He's got a bunch of books that he sells via Drive-Thru RPG and also Amazon, mainly Amazon. And he's got some pretty good like games that are just fun. He's got a simple dice system that rules mechanic that he uses through most of his products, I believe. And go check those as well. And also, if you want to get ahead of me doing a review of the books, go and check out Within the Ring of Fire. You can get those through Drive-Thru RPG. Andrew Woodward, who is a pioneer in streaming gaming and immersive roleplay storytelling, and also an old school just personality who is highly entertaining to listen to in his videos. If you ever check him out, he does like this world of wrestling delivery style, which is way over the top. It's like super high energy, but he knows his stuff. And also Dungeon Master Johnny, go and check out any of his videos and content. He has a book on traps and puzzles, which is required reading and really good, and you can still get a hold of that from him. He plays a lot of D&D basic and old school gaming, and he also gets a lot of fun out of skirmish style tabletop role-playing games that he plays with his family and friends. So go and check those guys out. Big shout out to them. And also Dungeon Master Scotty and DMG. Go and check those guys out as well. And Black Magic Craft. And I'll catch you all later.